Recording is on.
Hello, this is Okunini Obadele Kamban, and I am here. I was asked to present about the Gandhi Must Fall campaign in Ghana and what I did specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and go straight into that. I want to just quickly share my screen. All right. And I'll also share my video. So here we are. So basically, this got started from an email that I sent, and this was on the 4th of July, 2016, where, I sent an email that said, "Greetings, esteemed colleagues. As we have a new Gandhi statue behind Baum Library, I thought this would be of interest to some. Hopefully, in death, he doesn't object as much to being associated with Africans as he seemed to object to in life." So, this basically sparked off a firestorm of conversation. And what came out clearly was that people were really, not aware of, Gandhi and, even saying any of these types of things. So, I just had snapped this photo with my phone, and I also just sent out this link and then pasted directly in some of the racist quotes about Black South Africans. Note the term kafir, and I won't read everything. Is used as a racial slur, and it was actually even punishable by law during so-called apartheid times. So this is a very old thing. So you know, basically it was a collection of quotes from 1894, going all the way to 1911. And this was part of the UTAG University, sorry, not UTAG, UG staff. At that time, everybody had access to send to this UG staff mailing list, right? But since that time, that list has been censored. Actually, because of me sending this out, now this is no longer a list that everyone has access to send information out. It definitely caused a lot of controversy. Even the vice chancellor at the time, weighed in and he said, "Oh, I think he changed." Um, and that's when I sent follow up information about how he didn't change. He rather just turned his attention to oppressing the Dalits, the Black untouchables of India. So everywhere he was fighting for upper caste Hindus. So when he was in South Africa, he was fighting for upper caste Hindus. Then when he went to India, he continued to fight against the indigenous people there on behalf of the upper caste Hindus. And for those who are interested in that, GB Singh's Gandhi Behind the Mask of Divinity, I think, is the most comprehensive text that goes from his early life all the way through India. Very comprehensive. For those who are interested in just the South Africa experience, Gandhi, Stretcher Bear of Empire by Ghulam Desai and Vahed, right? So those two. So if you are interested in getting more information, I'll point you in some of those directions. There's another text called Gandhi Under Cross Examination. But for those who are really interested, I would say the best resource, if you are interested in debunking the Gandhi myths, are actually the collected works of Gandhi, which are freely available online, where you can read his letters, you can read things that were written originally in Gujarati and in Hindi, in the Indian opinion, that a lot of his followers weren't able to read because, of course, they couldn't read Gujarati. But I digress. I want to just go straight into some of the other things that I did. And this is kind of a timeline. This was a timeline that I composed for um, a blog, the Siha blog, Gandhi, Ghana's Unwelcome Guest, towards the resurrection of Ghana's Gandhi Must Fall movement. So I'll bring this up. This was something that I wrote in 2017, I want to say. So it started in 2016, and then things kind of died down because the government of Ghana said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to remove it." Of course, they did that to kind of stem the tide of those who were, fighting this good fight. So they didn't want people to fight that fight anymore. So they said, "Okay, yeah, we'll remove it." Of course, at that time, they had no intention of removing it, and it wasn't removed until 2 years later by the government. But in this, and this is a image done by Brett Akwe about basically it shows Mukherjee standing holding a flag as Gandhi pours who knows what type of liquid on the vice chancellor of the University of Ghana. as he crawls on his knees and the Ghana flag is on the ground. Very, powerful visual here. But here, timeline of Gandhi statue events. So 27 May 2016, we had the first announcement of the address by President Pranab Mukherjee, emailed to faculty without the mention of a Gandhi statue. Right on the 1st of June, there was a second announcement of the address by President Pranab Mukherjee, emailed to faculty again without mention of a Gandhi statue. On 12 June 2016, there was a notice of address by His Excellency Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, Honorable President of India at the University of Ghana, posted to the UG website. On the 13th of June 2016, there was a final reminder, again without mention of a statue. 13th June, there was a statue unveiled prior to his address without consultation or prior notice to the UG community. And apparently this was done by the vice chancellor at that time. And, people, I'm sure, and he was like, how could anyone have a problem with a Gandhi statue? It's great. Everybody loves Gandhi. And of course, this is the position of someone who obviously hadn't done research into Gandhi and hadn't read the collected works of Gandhi and, these types of things. But I digress. So again, on 4th July, that's the email thread that I showed you. Upon driving past the statue, the first author sends an email to all faculty and students announcing the presence of Gandhi's statue along with 52 of Gandhi's more pro-Indo-Aryan, anti-African, anti-Black quotes from 1894 through 1911, inciting shock and sparking a running email debate, which again included the Vice Chancellor himself, who had approved that statue in a unilateral decision. 12 September, that's when the Gandhi Must Fall online petition started at change.org. I'll come back to that because I'll actually show you a screenshot of that. 21st September, the second author, that's Professor Kojo Appiajetia, delivers a letter and the Gandhi Must Fall petition with over 1,500 signatures garnered within 2 weeks to the University of Ghana registrar. Now, initially we were like, we hope we get 100 signatures, but the way this turned into a firestorm, within just 2 weeks, we had 1,500 signatures. 22nd September 2016, a counter petition starts garnering a total of 230 signatures, including ghost signatures. And when I say ghost signatures, the first signatory of their counter petition saying Gandhi must stand was Mahatma Gandhi himself. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Gandhi didn't climb out of the grave to be the first signatory of that campaign. And I'm sure plenty of the other signatures were fake as well. So, that was what they got compared to Gandhi Must Fall petitions, 1,980 verified signatures as of that date. 30th September 2016, a letter from the University Council to Gandhi Must Fall petitioners acknowledging receipt. On the 2nd of October 2016, the Gandhi statue was defaced with the spectacle stolen. I was actually interviewed about this, and we urged calm and that people just allowed these due processes to take place. There's a hall at the University of Ghana where their mascot is the Vandals. So it wouldn't have been hard to just incite people to say, hey, knock the thing down. But, we said, let's let these things take their course because the students were ready to get this thing out of there immediately. 4th October 2016, Prof. Akosia Adamako Ampofo and first author give a public seminar to an overflowing conference room situating the Gandhi Must Fall events in the context of Black Lives Matter and decolonizing the academy. That was, I would say, before Black Lives Matter was hijacked by everything else, LGBTQ, LMNOP, and everything else. 5th October 2016, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issues a public statement vowing to relocate the statue of Gandhi for the protection of the inanimate object. It has remained curiously silent on the repeated murders and mob violence against Africans equals Black people in India. And then, we have citations of various mobs that have attacked, Black people there in India, just crazy stuff going on. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had nothing to say about any of that, but they said we have to protect this inanimate object, really backwards priorities. On 12th October, the petitioners issue a response to a public statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and pen a letter to then chairman of the University Council, Prof. Kwamina Ahwe. 7th December 2016, NDC government was voted out of power. So any progress, basically, that's in there because any progress that we made, all of that changed because now there's a new government in there. So any discussions that had basically taken place, we had to restart those discussions with the new MPP government. 19th December 2016, the University of Ghana Council sends petitioners a letter stating that the council did not object to the decision of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration to relocate the statue. That was a quote from them. 19th December 2016 to the present, and that was at that time. Despite MFA, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and University Council decisions, the statue remains at UG campus in spite of continued public outcry. Eventually, and I'll come back to this. 17 March 2017, the Indian government offers to build a $200 million 400-seat capacity parliament house for Ghana. And then 15th August 2017, the Indian government gives Ghana President His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo $1 million for renovation of Flagstaff House, presidential residence, which they had built in the first place. So basically, the reason why this is included is that the Indian government was clearly using what they call dollar diplomacy. So if you can, stroke the parliament and stroke the president, is basically your lawmakers and your executive. We have them in our pocket. We're going to buy them off, was the plan. However, on 12 December 2018, the statue was surreptitiously removed with alacrity from university premises. And I use those terms because that came up in the running email thread. So people who were in that thread at the University of Ghana know how alacrity was used a lot in that thread. The Gandhi statue was relocated to the Kofi Annan Center for Excellence in ICT, which is very ironic because Gandhi was against, ICT and all these, at least verbally, against all those types of things. So we removed those. And, interestingly, they removed it when the students were out of session, right? So usually this area has hundreds and hundreds of students there. But again, it was removed in December, right? 12th December. So all the students had gone home, but, there were still some around. And that's the ones we posed with on that same day, right? And this is an image. Somebody from a department, far away was able to take this because they were there with security personnel who were confiscating people's phones, who were trying to take videos and photos. They didn't want those images to get out. But I went there later on and somebody approached me who knew, of course, my role in it and asked me, do you want these photos? I said, sure, no problem. So, yeah. And then, these are just images of those mob attacks that we're talking about here. Those with broken bones, so forth and so on. African students protest, demand security. You see security footage, people with, black eyes and, all types of crazy stuff going on in India. But again, we don't hear anything about that. So that's to give you a timeline. Now, to go into other things that I did, I also wrote a chapter, co-authored a chapter with Professor Kwajoa Piagetpia in The Rose Must Fall. So this was a struggle that was going on at the time of Rose Must Fall in Umzansi. That's what they call South Africa, and Oxford, other places as well. And then also the national anthem protests. One reflection that I have is the Gandhi Must Fall campaign seems to have greater legs. Let me say it continues to move, and I think it's going to continue to move well into the future because, the national anthem protest kind of died down. The Rose Must Fall movement kind of died down, especially once the statue was removed. But I find that because the Indian government has chosen Gandhi to be their face of their basically imperialism, under the shroud of, neocolonialism, right? So basically what they're doing is that they're going around and then asserting their, political capital by using this face of Gandhi. So anyway, long story short, this was one of the publications that came out for this. And with the Rose Must Fall Oxford, what we found is that there was a linkage in terms of the dignity of Black people, right? And it was definitely something that was well received. We got a lot of good feedback on that chapter. In addition to that, and for those who are interested, you can go to my website, albadelekamban.com, where it's available for download. So the pro-Indo-Aryan, anti-Black MK Gandhi and Ghana's Gandhi Must Fall movement is there. In addition to that, this is back in 2017 as well. Should Gandhi's hypocrisy be taught in West African schools? A dissenting view. And this is something that I wrote for Marg magazine out of India, Voice of the People, so people can check that one out as well. This is what I got that timeline from. Improper Gandhi, Ghana's unwelcome guest. And as you can see, some of the images that were in the original article that I shared the PDF of, they removed those. They thought those images were too controversial. We didn't make those images, but the image of, Gandhi pouring some type of liquid, we'll only guess what type of liquid that is, on the vice chancellor. But really, it showed how people viewed the vice chancellor as someone who's, crawling, basically at the behest and at the feet of these Indian oppressors. Um, yeah, and that's that. So this is, another image of the same thing. Another thing that we did, I did an interview with Sagar. Give us a statue of Ambedkar, not Gandhi. Ghana University professor Obadile Kamban. And this is an article that was actually viewed by thousands and thousands of people, mainly in India. This is an Indian publication. Yeah, and then lots of comments as well for those who are interested. Yeah, and that was done, after the campaign, well, after the statue was removed, immediately after 13th January 2019, just a month after that. We started a petition. That's what was mentioned, and we actually never closed the petition. As I mentioned initially, we were just hoping to get like 100 or so signatures, mainly from the university. But the way that this took off internationally, it was really something. So Gandhi statue at University of Ghana must come down. The way change.org works is that once you hit a milestone, it just kicks it up to the next milestone until you decide to close the campaign. So eventually it said, let's get to 2,000. When we did, then it now says, let's get to 5,000. But, the campaign, of course, was successful. We removed that statue from our university. Some of the quotes here are some of the quotes from the original email that I sent. So, we composed this. One of my colleagues who at that time was at California on sabbatical, that's Professor Akosi Adamakwa. She's the one who actually did a lot of the write-up here. Professor Akosia Adamakwa of the history department. At that time, Dr. now Professor Kwadwo PhD of law, myself, Institute of African Studies, and then Mr. Manche Ayikwe of Accra.org, and that's a community organization that runs the biggest festival in Africa. I'm told millions of people. It's called the StatueWhat Festival. So yeah, it was basically a collaboration of academics at the university and then community civil organizations, and they really got things going. In terms of social media, all these other types of things, more than we would have been able to. This is something that I compiled, 125 slides plus video, the most comprehensive case for Gandhi's anti-Black racism ever researched and presented. And this was to help students in a debate. They were going to debate, whether the statue should come down. This was in 2016, right, when it first really kicked off. A group of students came to me and said, oh, we were assigned a task of putting together a debate. So I said, no problem. So I pulled together a lot of resources from Gandhi's own writings, the collected works from his early life all the way to his life in India. And really, the ones who have been the best, as the text I already mentioned, G.B. Singh, Gandhi Behind the Mask of Divinity. Most people who deal with him as being racist, they only look at Umzansi, South Africa. But in this one, I did a similar thing in terms of looked at his entire life and how he never changed. And I'll come back to that point because I had a article debate, if you want to call it, with Ramchandra Guha. And if you don't know, he's an Indian who's considered to be the, or one of the, if not the most foremost authority on Gandhi in India, who said that, Gandhi changed, but I'll come back to that, that basically I gave evidence from his own writings that he didn't change. King Africa Radio, this was in Umzansi, South Africa, on why Gandhi fell at the University of Ghana. And then also GMG Plus, this was March 11th, 2019. Gandhi is a racist. This is on Metro TV. That's broadcasted locally here. Put it online. Counter view: Gandhi a racist. Mandela, Martin Luther King imposed by colonialist. Dr. Kambon. That was an interview done in September of last year. This one, 2018, 2018, as you see, this was as the statue was being knocked down. This was breaking news at the time, the Pulse on Joy News, statue of Gandhi. So I was on the phone giving this interview at the time, and then they later came back for another, in-person interview. This one on Al Jazeera, the stream, was Mahatma Gandhi racist? And even the fact that they call him Mahatma lets you know their point of view, because I say Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Like Ambedkar said, I will never call him Mahatma. So I also don't refer to him as Mahatma. But again, that's Al Jazeera. This is Local Yachts, again, out of India, in conversation, basically dealing with the removal of the statue of Gandhi. This was, again, 2020. This was back, when it first kicked off. Again, Joy News, they came to do an interview, the Gandhi Must Fall campaign, Joy News Today. And that was in September of 2016, right? So you can see that. Yeah, and this is the interview, again, 2018, as the statue was removed, breaking racist Gandhi statue taken down at the University of Ghana, featuring Dr. Obadile Kambon. They don't know I prefer Okunini to Dr. And then here, Father of Apartheid, how Gandhi dehumanized Black Africans. This was for 3 News. And this is actually a student of mine I taught at African University College of Communications. So with that, most of my students went into journalism. So this is one of my students, Ayeki Nano, who started working for 3 News and then came to do basically an interview about Gandhi's racism. We have Ram Guha is wrong. Gandhi went from a racist young man to a racist middle-aged man. So basically, Ramchandra Guha said by the time he was in his mid-30s, Gandhi no longer spoke of Africans as inferior to Indians. So I said that this is demonstrably false. So I showed, writings from his mid to late 30s and early to mid 40s up to the time of his departure, which was in his mid 40s from Umzansi, showing that every single day, every single year he was in Umzansi, and that's the indigenous term for South Africa, he was speaking disparagingly of, Black people. So I said from the article, either he doesn't know, this is Guha, does not know much about Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He is either intentionally lying about him in true Gandhian fashion, or is unable to do simple arithmetic to find out when he was in his mid-30s. So he was born on 2nd October 1869. So, I just went through, and I'll go to some of the later ones. So you can see 1909, we're locked up with Kafirs. We do not get food that we're used to. We're locked up with Kafirs. So he was 40 at the time he's making these statements. Some Indians do have contacts with Kafir women. I think such contacts are fraught with grave danger. Indians would do well to avoid them altogether. And this is in the print.in. So again, a publication out of India. If the regulations provide for Kafir police, we can fight the regulations. I saw it reported that we might even ask the Kafirs to strike, but such is not our intention at all. So he didn't want to have anything to do when he was doing his strikes and campaigns. He did not want to have anything to do with the Black people. This wasn't about Black people. And he said he doesn't even want them to join the campaign. So this is in 1913. This is a year before he left for India, permanently. So again, that's one thing, but overall, we weren't talking so much about Gandhi's racist statements. It was his racist actions in terms of segregating the Durban Post and Telegraph offices, in terms of segregating the lavatories in the prisons so that Indians wouldn't have to sit on the same toilet as Black people. Just racist actions, more so than, him saying mean things against Black people. This is another one. Now, this is a forthcoming article that we have, Integration, Apartheid, and Untouchability. And we call it a tricontinental analysis, just basically showing how when the enemies of African people choose our heroes for us, then those heroes are never, the people who we should look up to. So because they misdiagnosed the problem in the US as, oh, your problem is you're not integrated, so now you have to go and get integration, but the problem is genocide there. But they give us a hero like Martin Luther King. In Umzansi, the problem there is also genocide, but they say the problem is apartheid. You're apart from white people, so let's resolve your problem for you. But again, you can't resolve genocide by getting closer to the ones who are committing genocide. And again, they give us a hero, Nelson Mandela, there. And then untouchability, the problem is genocide, for the CDs, for the Dalits, for the Adivasis. However, if they tell you the problem is that you're not allowed to touch, these Indo-Aryans, then to resolve the problem is never going to resolve the genocide. So that's a forthcoming article, how in all three cases, and of course the hero there is Gandhi. In all three cases, if we chose our own heroes, we would choose someone like Nana Malcolm X or Nana Nat Turner. We would choose someone like Nana Mangaliso Sobukwe. If we chose our own heroes, we would choose a hero like Gangu Baba or someone like Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar. So, if we chose our own heroes, and that's what we would choose, rather than having our heroes chosen for us. And again, that's a forthcoming article coming out very soon. So, just in short, these are some of the things that I did, with regard, on a personal level. Of course, I didn't do any of those things alone, as I've mentioned the names of those who, I worked with. And I'm going to take off the screen share and come back to the camera. Of course, I didn't do any of those things alone, and without those thousands of signatures, and basically we saw this. There's a campaign in Malawi, and I know there's going to be a representation from there. Campaigns throughout the world, and every time, Atlanta, every month, just about, I get an email of someone who has another Gandhi Must Fall campaign, and a lot of it was touched off from the campaign we had in Ghana. But I would like to say that the campaign didn't start in Ghana. In Umzansi, the year before, I want to say 2015, there was someone in South Africa, Umzansi, who, splashed paint on a statue of Gandhi. And that's when the very first hashtag of Gandhi Must Fall, came out. So, we didn't start the campaign, but ours, I would say, was probably the one that became the most internationally renowned. That you have university professors, you have university students who are bringing forth this information that, wasn't generally known. I don't know how it wasn't generally known, but, I think a lot of it has to do with, the concerted effort by the government of India. And yeah, I'm seeing this here. I'm going to share my screen one more time just so, and I'll round off with this because I know my time is probably spent now. But this is April of 2015. Gandhi statue vandalized, and this is from the BBC. Gandhi statue vandalized in Johannesburg. So you see the paint that was thrown on this. And a hashtag was shared called Gandhi Must Fall. So our campaign was in 2016. But yeah, just for people who are interested in, getting the correct story and how everything worked out. So that's what I have for you today. That's what I did. I've touched on a little bit of what I've done. Also, a little bit in terms of whether Gandhi changed or not, and the answer is unequivocally not. And I came to find out about this by an esteemed ancestor, John Henry Clark, who said, and this is in '94, I want to say, he said Gandhi was a faker and a fraud. And from there, I started to read about Ambedkar. I read Dalit's Untouchables of the Black Untouchables of India by Rajshekhar. Had Baba Ranoko Rashidi, who just passed away recently, who gave a course where he dealt a lot with the global African presence, specifically dealing with India. So yeah, that's what I have for you today, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you about the Ghana Gandhi Must Fall campaign. And that must